Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. As we continue to look at the introduction of the letter to the Philippians from the Apostle Paul while he was in prison, we find something very beautiful about this church at Philippi. Among all the churches that Paul helped to establish, the Philippian believers seemed to have a particular close relationship with him. There was a deep bond of love between Paul and this congregation. As I read these notes and think about what we're talking about today, the love that this church at Philippi had for their pastor, the Apostle Paul, their founding pastor. I think of the fact that I've had the wonderful privilege of being a part of pastoring 4 different churches. And I can tell you, every church made me feel greatly loved. The congregation extended wonderful love to us in many occasions, in all ways. And even after we've been gone from them for years, they still extend that love and grace to us. And boy, that's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Sure, there have been bumps in the road, and there have been people in the churches that have caused some conflict and hurt and pain. But my friend, I am so thankful, like the Apostle Paul, for a church like Philippi that loved us, encouraged us, and helped us along the way, prayed for us. And that's what every church needs to do with their pastor, is to love them, care for them, encourage them, and help them. And that's what Paul, as we look at these notes today, found at the church at Philippi. In Philippians 1:3, Paul wrote to them, "I thank my God upon every remembrance of you." Can you imagine that? Every time Paul thought about these believers, his heart was filled with gratitude for God. He goes on to say in verse 5, "Always, in every prayer of mine, making request for you with all joy for your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now." And then when you go on down to verse 7, he says, "Because I have you in my heart, inasmuch as both in my chains and in the defense and confirmation of the gospel, you are partakers with me of grace." You are partakers with me of grace. So this church was in partnership with the Apostle Paul in the ministry of the gospel from the very beginning. And their love was not just expressed in words. When he says this grace, I'm convinced he was talking about they demonstrated their care in the fact that they contributed financially to his ministry. Now remember, the Apostle Paul actually worked as a tent maker in Acts chapter 18 verse 3 when he was at Corinth. Later there he met Aquila and Priscilla, and they were tent makers, and it says they were of the same trade. And so he supported ministry that way. But this church at Philippi was faithful, especially in giving to his ministry. In Philippians 4:15, he says something remarkable. He says when he first left Macedonia, that's the northern region of Greece, no other church shared with him financially except them. And he wrote, "Now you Philippians know also that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church shared with me concerning giving and receiving, but you only." Now this was not a wealthy church in itself, but they gave generously to help Paul continue to preach the gospel. And now, even while he's in prison, there was Epaphroditus, it says in chapter 4, who also brought a special gift to him from the church. And that's for this reason that Paul is writing, to thank them for their generosity and their kindness. But the gift also reveals something deeper. It reveals their love for the apostle who had brought them the message of Jesus Christ. And this reminds us that the gospel's always been a partnership. Some preach and some go and some send, some support. But we all should pray and encourage one another. And when God's people work together, the message of Christ spreads further than any one person can take it alone. And my friend, the Philippian church and the people there understood this principle very well. And their generosity and their faithfulness helped sustain Paul's ministry and encouraged him during one of the most difficult times of his life. And that's why the book of Philippians is filled with such warmth and affection. And this is a grateful pastor writing to a generous and faithful church, thanking and encouraging them. My friend, I trust today that you'll be a part of a church like that yourself, and you'll be generous in your giving and your love for the pastor and the leadership. God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.